Hey guys, welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today we're going to do something that's basically based on the Pantheon intro animation. So here's the reference we're going to look at. So we have a statue, it gets distorted and kind of destroyed, the self-fracturing effect. Then you reveal another mesh underneath, and that mesh is then turned into kind of like dust or something. So with this, we're going to do a few things. We're going to do self-fracturing on the overall mesh. We're going to get another mesh underneath. And then we're going to use a Boolean to delete it. And then on the surface of the Boolean, we're going to do a particle system. Online, I found a few different things. I found a brain mesh and also this statue. So just to make it a bit easier, I'm going to delete part of it using just a Boolean. So I'm going to do a cube, scale it up, grab it up, maybe scale it more, grab about here is reasonable. Let's see what the reference has it at. Reference has it at about, you see the whole thing, but who cares? So we're gonna take the Boolean and we're gonna go about here. And then using Bool tools, if you do this, boom, click and then click. You did a quick Boolean mask, and then we're gonna apply it right here. Apply, great, it's gone. And we can go into this, grab everything, and then just pull it down on the Z. Really quick, we're gonna remove the texture on the statue, because when we self-fracture it, this nice texture we have is going to kind of get messed up. Let's just remove the texture and make it white. That way when we add the self-fracturing, it won't get too messed up. Cool. So we go back to the layout tab. Here we are, boom. We're gonna move the brain to be the same. And I think for this as well, we're gonna wanna also remove the texture. So we're gonna go here, it has something. Let's just delete it all. And then principal BSDF. Also make it white, but let's just make it this for now. That way we can see it a bit easier. We go in the shading tab. There it is. Nice. Cool. So pull it up, scale it down. We're gonna want to fit this inside. Pull it in, rotate around. Good to go. Nice. Okay, so the brain's inside. We have the statue. Now what we need to do is we're going to need to do a self-fracturing on this. Let's first rename this just a statue. And then we're gonna go over here to Object, Quick Effects. If you don't have this in your Blender, you could add it in as a quick add-on. It's a part of the package. So we're gonna do Recursive Subdivision Step 1 and on the big pieces. So the big pieces will get smaller. And so that way it kind of makes it all cut up nicely. Cool. It's finished. Now it's doing the recursive. So now it's all been cut up. This is the main initial statue mesh. We can just make this hidden. And so we see the mesh right here cut up. We grab the cells. I'm gonna go grab all of them. Nice. So now we have all of the statue cells, and we're gonna push M for new collection. We'll call it the statue collection, whatever. Good enough. Nice. That's there. This cut here doesn't need it anymore for the Boolean. And then we can take the statue that's gone. Cool, the brain's over here, awesome. And then we're gonna go back to the main scene collection. We're gonna make a new mesh just to host the geometry nodes. We'll say geonode group. We're gonna go to geometry nodes, new, boom. We're gonna delete this, now that's gone. We're gonna do the statue collection here. We'll actually make this now hidden. It's no longer needed. And so then we're gonna go to the geonodes group. We pulled this in, pop. Back, and we're gonna go to the brain, and we're gonna do join geometry, and that's also gonna be turned off. Nice. And we're gonna go geometry, boom. Relative. So now it has been moved to where we had it relatively placed beforehand. That's why we took some time to do it. In the back, you might see some of these different missing pieces. That's just when it does the self-fracturing, the Boolean kind of messes up. It's not going to be a bit of an issue. We can point the camera this way and hide it. A lot of VFX works is just lying and trying to hide things to make sure you only see the good stuff. So when you pull in the collection info, it's going to be instances. You also want to do separate children. What this is going to do is it's going to split all of them into their own kind of instanced ID. That way we can do things like translate instances and stuff like that. So we're doing the quick effect just for the self-fractured animation. It's quite easy. So we have translate instances, and we're gonna add noise, right? I'm sure you guys have done this before. So we have the color translation, boom. noise, and then if we unclick normalize, then all of them are going to have the noise applied to them versus a normalized thing. So if we do normalize and then vector math to amplify this, vector math, and we do scale, make it like 5, right? I just got to make another math node here. So we offset the noise, subtract 0.5. So remember, on average, the noise is offsetting everywhere by 1. And so that means it's all moving in the direction of basically 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And so then if we subtract it out, it keeps it more standardized. Cool. And we actually added it by accident. So there we go, boom. Okay, so we add this. This is what's happening, cool. We can go from that to 0. It's all put together again, very cool. And then if we took on normalize, we see the same effect. Then it's gonna blow up kind of everywhere, which is also pretty cool. So nice. I guess let's keep normalize on, it makes it easy. And then we can go 0. Nice, cool. So now we have the self-fracture effect working like we want it to. It's blowing it up into reveal a brain, but we're gonna need to mask to make sure we only have it in a certain space we want. So how do we do that? We use the location of an empty. We bring an empty, we'll say mask 1. Grab the masks, pull it in, nice. Separate, I think that should also work. If we make another mask here, we duplicate this, give us all this mask 2. Nice, we grab this, put it up here. This one should be maybe like here by the arm, right? And this one maybe by the head here. Perfect. We're just gonna maybe view arm, and then about like this. Cool. Okay, so the way we're gonna do the masking is we're gonna pull in just the actual objects. We can't do instances. I tried, that didn't work. And we're gonna just do off of the distance. So here we go, we pulled in the mask 1 right here. So we can say this is shoulder mask maybe. Shoulder mask. You can label this one too. Shoulder mask. Face mask, perfect. Cool. So we have this one here, the distance between the two, and then we have the less than, and then we have the viewer. That way we can see where it's affecting. So each instance is going to be affected by the location of this empty here. So if we get clicked out and move it around, we can see it blows it up to accordance to that. Cool. So that we know that this is for sure working. And then what we can do is we can take all of this. We can do Control Shift D. Now it's all still connected. And we're gonna pull this in, but we're gonna change this object. So it's no longer gonna be shoulder mask, it's gonna be face mask there. And then this will be another translate instances, which we can do right here. And it's going to be a different selection based off of the different empty, but it'll be the same noise. So it's the same translation. We can just remove this, and here we go. Let's test this out. So go here, blows up the face, perfect. Now this is too much, so we should probably pull this back and pull this one back and beat it a bit more. Okay, where do we want it? How do we want this? How do we want this blowing up? So maybe like this much of the face. How much do we want to blow this up? We want to go maybe to here. Maybe like that much. And if we turn this off, mute, the head is untouched and only this part's touched, perfect. Nice. So we have the translations both happening as we would expect. So we have we have, I guess this is the head, the shoulder translation, shoulder translate, head translate. Great. So we have both of those going as we would expect. And then the way we can animate this is we can then animate the scale over time. So looking back to the reference is we know that first the shoulder goes and then the head. I guess if we use the same noise, it will scale at the same time. Do we want that? Maybe not. So what we can then do is we can do Control Shift D, pull this out, adding a reroute, pumping this one in. There we go. And this will be shoulder, head noise. Great. And we have that still done. So then we're gonna go from 0, should be 0, keyframe this, and then at 45, let's see how much we wanna have. Maybe like this, let's say okay. And then maybe from, let's say 30, to, let's just do 60 for now, and we can keyframe that. Okay, so then if we watch this play, we're gonna get this and that, perfect. Let's change these keyframes. We can go A, T for interpolation, and then let's just do Bezier to smooth it out. So we're gonna get a bit of a smoother curve. And then we probably want it to be non-stop moving, so then for the rest of the clip, let's have this continue to scale to, I don't know, this more maybe, 32. Let's try that, and then let's try that, and let's see how that looks. And this should also still be Bezier. So Alt T Bezier. Cool. That should loop around. Nice, perfect. And then we want to also change the noise to only go in a certain direction. We can do that here. So we're going to pull that back, and we're going to do a vector math, which we have right here. And then we're going to take multiply. And then we're going to change the vectors. So 1's everything. So we can do like 0.5, 0.5. And maybe a bit more like this. We can add a tiny bit here. Let's just say 0.2. Oi, 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 that's way too high. 0.05. 0.005. Maybe that's too much. So then it's gonna go up. Maybe 0.1 maybe. And then we can say this is 0.8. 0.8. Let's see how that looks. Nice. I kind of like that. It's exploding out. We're seeing some cool little movement. It's mostly staying up, which is good. Good view of the brain. Okay. So then we have that. Okay. Nice. And then we also probably want to scale these guys. So we're going to scale all of them after this. So let's do scale instances. And then we have the same selection, which we can do by adding them together, I'm pretty sure, actually. That would be nice if this just works how I want it to. Let's find out. Put it into selection. And I put a value node here. Value. Let's see what happens when we scale this bad guy. It does just work that way. Cool. So we just added both of the selections there. And now we can have this get smaller as time goes on. So when they both start moving, then that's where we should probably have things start slowing, getting smaller. So this value is 1. So then we can go at 30. Yeah. So let's go here. And then let's just say at end it's 0.05. No, that's really small. Let's just say 0.1. And here, grab the frames, T, Bezier, and then we're gonna get this shrinking effect too. But now that it's actually shrinking, it doesn't need to explode as far. So what we can then do is go to 180 and make this a lot closer. Now let's just overwrite the keyframes of pushing I. Let's watch this again. I kind of like it. So it's going up, and it slows down a little bit. I think actually it could even be less moving away. You kind of want to see the shrinking effect. Let's go 8 for both of them. And then 8. Nice. Let's try that again. Nice. I like that. Now it's shrinking to nothing, and we have the good reveal of the brain. Cool. Okay. So we have the brain back here. All of this is going to be our effect for the statue. So let's say statue effect. We can grab all of this, and we can just do Control J, make a frame, and we'll say statue effect. Now we know not to mess with this. It's done. Now we can work on the next part. Okay, so now that we have the drivers for the face explosion and the shoulder explosion, what we need to move to now is the brain effect. So we have the brain here, and what we're gonna do is add a mesh Boolean, as well as add a surface to fix something that we have an issue with the mesh itself. So we have the mesh here, boom, the brain. We also need to use a cube. So we're gonna use this cube. We can preview this here, transform geometry, move it up a bit. That's reasonable. And then what I like to do to preview my effects as I'm working on them is I essentially layer in transform geometry nodes so I can see kind of each step of the way as I'm working on it. So now we know for sure this mesh here, boom. This mesh here with this cube is intersecting with this brain. So we take this brain effect, or I guess this brain mesh, and we do an intersect. It should just be right there. Just kidding. Oh no, it doesn't have the intersection. Boom. That's a piece of it. We don't want that. We want the difference. Click. No, why is it two of them? We have this guy and this guy. Nice. So now as we move the cube, we're gonna see the brain get cut. And we gotta increase the cube size. There we go. And so then also make the cube a bit bigger just in case. Now that we have the Boolean made for the brain, we need to make a way to gather just the surface of what's being selected. So we have this here. And then now what we're gonna do is we're going to make another reroute down here to do a little trick. So we're gonna reroute and we're gonna add this geometry and do a mesh to volume. And then we're gonna do a volume to mesh. And then we're gonna also have another transform node here. It's gonna move in. You can see it, cool. There's been no mesh Boolean on it yet, which is okay. But I wanna change this geometry to match it more with the source up here. So we can do a sample index. And that's going to give us the index values. And we need to do a sample nearest. Sample nearest, boom. And so then now what we can do is we can take this data for this one pre-deformed into the volume as position. And then this is going to give us an index value of all of those different things. Now we're getting the sample index, and we're going to then take this position vector of this geometry, and I think we're just going to set a position. Set position. Nice. And this should just go here. Whoops. Actually, I think it might be this here. Now let's just see. Yes, there we go. Okay, so what we're doing is they removed the transfer attribute node. So to kind of do the same thing, you have to combine the sample nearest and sample index. So we're pulling in the volume to meshed positional data here, and then we're just setting the new mesh data and just putting it all to set position. So if we don't do this kind of to capture the positional data back here, it's not going to map correctly. Merge by distance. Merge by distance. Boom. So now that's just removed some of the points that have just been moved to the same exact point. So we had extra points from the mesh to volume, volume to mesh. So we got to have this to kind of clean it up. Cool. So now we have this. So then with this, what we can then do is take this information, which is now all of our mesh to volumed, like mesh to volume. So we're gonna grab this, we're gonna group it, and we're just gonna call this like remeshed brain mesh. And now we need to do the mesh Booleans again, right? So we're gonna take this here, here, pop it in, and it should, I think, actually be inverted. So let's try this and this. Nice. So now what we have is a nice clean surface. So with that clean surface, we can do one more thing. Control-Shift-D to duplicate, keeping the connections. And we're going to do intersect. And it doesn't matter how it is. Here. And then I think if we move this here, -9, you shall see. Nice. So we have a top and a bottom. All we care about is the mesh in between the two. So what we can do is duplicate this intersect one more time and have these two intersect. And this will just make it so we only have this face right there. Sure, it looks terrible, but at least it's exactly that face that we're seeing as we deform everything. So we can move it up and down, and it's going to populate and make it for us. Cool. So we have the geometry of the face we want. We got to put it back on top of the brain. So how are we going to do that? What we're going to do is we're going to take this right here, pre the transform. So we no longer need this step or this step. Actually, we just need this step. So we can do a join geometry right here, on top, right there. Boom. Now we see it, it's right on top, looks great. And we can remove the rest of this guff. So we can say, thank you, goodbye. There's a bit of an artifacting issue with, I guess, the overall like brain mesh. That's why we're getting kind of weird, it's popping back and forth. I guess if we really wanted to, we could just move it all just straight to this puppy instead. Maybe that might be better, actually. Let's just try, see how that looks. Let's see how this looks. And then if we did it the other way, it would be, yeah, maybe we just give up actually and just do the mesh volume. It'll be fine. If we shade smooth it, maybe it's okay. Let's see. That last part of the step. So we need to take this geometry right there and instance some points on it. So we're going to take it. Let's move it down here. -6. Pop it in. And we can just say distribute points on faces. And we can just say 60. And now we get some points on that puppy. And now we're gonna do a simulation node. So we're gonna keep this over here to make sure we know what we're looking at. We have the points. We're gonna do a simulation zone. So simulation zone. This is gonna go in here. This is gonna go in here. And then we're gonna add in a join geometry. So now we have some points here, and now we're gonna set up the simulation zone. We have the join geometry to kind of pull it in and instance every single frame, another, whatever this is, 30 points or something like that. So then what we gotta do before we kind of crash my computer by having it go through, is we gotta add some parameters to make sure it ages out and dies. So store named attribute, boom, call it age. And this is going to just be a float point, no problem. Named attribute, here we are. And then from here, we're gonna call age again. And this is gonna be a math node. And we're gonna add 1 each time. Boom. And now we gotta delete them. So we're gonna do delete geometry. Take that point, and we can say greater than like 20. And then we're gonna do the age here, pop it in. Cool. So now it should stop us making sure we have no more than up to 20 frames of extra points. After that, it will then be deleted. So we have this. Now we gotta make the noise that's actually gonna be moving them. So we can do a set position. We're gonna add the noise. And then we're gonna add this in the offset. And we're gonna do the same thing. Vector math, -0.5, boom. And then we gotta add in the consistent noise we're adding to this. So maybe it's on one axis. We can maybe add just a bit of this noise. We can do like 0.2, 0.1, and then multiply. And then the reason why I'm doing a bit of addition, so the reason why I'm adding a 0.1 here is to shift everything up a little bit. So now this should work. Nice. We're making all of these points pop up. after 40 frames, it no longer makes more. Cool. So that's working as we would expect it to work. Now what we need to do is we need to get a way to make sure we change the W value each time, so it doesn't look like it's just this perfect like line just going up. It could be a cool effect, but I kind of want to make it a little bit more noisy, for lack of a better term. Scene time, put the frame in here. Now every frame is going to change that value, so it's going to make it look a bit more noisy. Cool. We can increase the scale of the noise. Maybe, I think 5 is fine. Let's maybe add a bit more. I want this to kind of go up and out. Show the reference. It's kind of just going up and out. It's not too crazy. Maybe this is fine. To go over, basically, we've now chosen our view of how the noise should look on the simulation. And we have the age to make sure it times out. And then we also have the surface that's actually going to be pushed on. So we can just push this all in the join geometry, which should go right here now. And that's working. So we can remove this puppy. You're gone. And then if we take the cube, perfect. And the nice thing is it won't start happening until we start slicing in. So now we can time the cube keyframes with this over here. Let's do that really quick. Actually, let's leave the cube in so we can make sure we see what we're doing. Okay. So right about here, the cube's gonna wanna start coming in. Now let's say inset. And then let's look at this again one more time, just to make sure we're always looking at the reference. It's about halfway down. So we can go to about here. Let's keyframe that, grab them. A, T, Bezier, and we can cut the cube. Brain though needs to be cut there. Now let's see. I think actually should go a bit faster. There we go, something like that. Anyways, so that's basically the effect. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys got something out of it, and see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much.